Dipak Jain, world-renowned academician and an award-winning scholar. Professor Dipak is currently the president and professor of marketing at the China-Europe International Business School, known as CEIBS in Shanghai. A marketing expert trained in mathematics and statistics, Dr. Jain earned his bachelor's and master's degrees from Guwahati University in Assam before completing his PhD in marketing at the University of Texas at Dallas in the United States. Prior to CEIBS, Dr. Jain has served in top capacities at leading international institutions such as the Northwestern University's Kellogg School of Management, INSEAD Business School, and the Sassin Graduate Institute of Business Administration in Thailand. He is the recipient of many honors and achievements, such as being named the Sandy and Morton Goldman Professor of Entrepreneurial Studies and Professor of Marketing at Kellogg, earning the prestigious John D.C. Little Best Paper Award for his scholarly work and receiving the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman from the Prime Minister's office in India. Apart from being an editor on the editorial boards of leading academic journals, Dr. Jain has also served eminent international organizations, including John Deere, Reliance, United Airlines, Microsoft, Novartis, American Express, Sony, to name a few, in various capacities such as board member, director, or consultant. Dipak, I could go on, and I've just summarized the very long, the long list of achievements you've had. Pardon me for being succinct here, but it's been an honor to have you addressing our students. And thank you very much for agreeing to do this. Over to you, Dipak.
While Dishan, you were talking about Tejpur, Assam, let me first offer my welcome to all these aspiring future leaders of India or the world. But I thought I will begin this with a very simple story. It was November 1962. China attacked India. And they came from the northeastern part of India. Today we call it Arunachal Pradesh. In those days, it was known as NEFA, N-E-F-A, Northeastern Frontier Agency. They crossed the mountain regions, and the first town that you get is a town which is close to Tejpur, where I was born. And that was the year I just started going to kindergarten class, KG class. I remember the teacher came to the class around 11 o'clock in the morning and said, the Chinese army is less than 50 kilometers from the school. The government of India has asked us to vacate the town of Tejpur by 7 p.m. We are trying to reach your parents. In those days, the telephone connections were not that good, and neither we had a telephone at home. And the parents would come and take you back home, and we have to vacate the town. I was more excited because we got a holiday. My father came, we walked back home, and on the way, we crossed the deputy collector's office. They were burning all the papers. We crossed the State Bank of India. We saw there was a lot of looting going on. People were after the currency. Anyway, we reached home, and we packed our stuff, whatever we could, in trucks, and we left home. In those days, there was no bridge on river Brahmaputra. So that night we have to stay on one side. In the morning, we crossed by ferry, and it took us 8 days to reach a town called Rohtak in Haryana now. In those days, it used to be Punjab, where my grandparents were living. And we reached there after 8 days. This is November 1962. November 2017, exactly 55 years later, almost the same week, I ran there as a refugee. One of those refugees was given the honor to be the president of China Europe International Business School. Just imagine, a refugee of the China War is one day invited back to China to head the most prestigious business school in that country, and that is Dipak Jain. I attribute this honor to our Indian education system, to the dedication of our parents who sacrificed their life to give their children the best education, and to the teachers who selflessly gave us the best what they had in themselves. So this morning, I just want to let all of you know that difficulties come in our way to make us better, not bitter. China war ended up being a blessing, and it speaks more about the Chinese to have a person of Indian origin to head their institute. Last night, it's just a coincidence, I got a call from some senior authorities of China, the vice mayor of Shanghai and the head of the Knowledge Commission, just reiterating how much they like me because this is my last year of this assignment. And that's why they were saying that we would like you to continue, but we leave the decision to you. I want to start this morning by telling all of you, if there is one thing that is going to stay with you for the rest of the life, that is the flame of learning, the flame of intellectual curiosity. This is something very unique about us. People can go and take away your wealth, take away your car, take away your home, but this intellectual curiosity and the achievement that you are going to get from your education at Flame is going to be the best asset that you can ever imagine or you can ever possess. Don't miss this opportunity. You are not only going to learn from the teachers, but you will also learn a lot from your classmates, from your other colleagues, and try to be a part of this system. Make the best use of every moment, every interaction that you have with people. And my only advice to all of you is you need to put your best into it. Lots of people always tell me, Deepak, you were very lucky that you got a chance to go out, became the dean of Kellogg, and all those things. I agree there is something called luck. But my wife is from Missouri. After she had to wait 3 years for her visa before she came to Kellogg. And she saw me. By the time she came, I was already a senior professor there. And my mother took her one day in Tejpur to show her the school where I went to study. It was called Hindi Rashtra Bhasha Vidyalaya. My parents couldn't afford to send us to an English school. So it was only in 6th grade when we started learning English. And in the 7th grade, there was a course called English translation. Hindi se English mein translate karna. So the teacher wrote on the board, translate in English, and the sentence was, Ek Raja tha. Excuse me for saying something in India. Ek Raja tha. मेरे से पूछा कि translate करो. I say एक का मतलब I say एक king was. टीचर ने एक चाटा मारा, बेवकूफ. देयर वॉज ए किंग. मैं टीचर से पूछे देयर कहां से आया. दिस वॉज माई नॉलेज इन द 7th ग्रेड. और कभी सोचा नहीं था कि उतनी घटिया अंग्रेजी से I would one day become the dean of the most prestigious business school of the world called Kellogg School of Management. How we speak, how we appear is less important than how you come across as an intellectual and more important as a person. People look at you that is this a person who is an institution builder. There are lots of people who are good scholars, but the ability to bring others together under one roof and have this culture of teamwork, team spirit requires a very different skill. I have learned this over the years, and I just thought you are starting, as it was said in the introduction, your journey, or the best word is a new chapter in your life. And Neeraj mentioned that it is slightly raining, and it's not rain. As he said, this is what I consider as showers of blessings. ये एक अच्छी बारिश हो तो उसको एक अच्छा ओमन मानते हैं. So I said, I started my education journey in September 1979. I finished my master's degree in mathematical statistics in 1978. My first job was a job as the lead officer in State Bank of India, but I was always interested in getting into academics. And luckily, I got a job as a lecturer in mathematics at Nagaon College in Assam, Nagaon College. I stayed there for 6 months, and then I got an offer to be a lecturer of statistics in the Department of Commerce at Guwahati University. And this job I started February 15th, 1980. And I had to teach MCOM students course on statistics for commerce students. I was only 22 years old at that time. And these commerce students were mostly working students. The classes were in the evening, and the average age was around 24, 25. So I went to the head of the department. His name was Anil Sharma. And I said, Professor Sharma, I am going to start this new journey today, teaching master students who are almost everyone in the class is older than I am. And I just need some words of wisdom from you or any advice you would give me. He said, Dipak, I am a professor of organizational behavior. I don't know any statistics. I said that I'm not worried about the subject. I just thought this is something very different for me to teach master students. So I thought that I will just get some words of inspiration from you. So Mr. Sharma just told me one sentence. And that sentence till today is my guiding light. And let me tell you what he told me. He said, Dipak, when your shadow becomes longer than your height, remember the sun is about to set. ढलती शाम को आपकी छाया आपसे बड़ी हो जाती है. But the moment the sun sets, the chaya disappears and you will remain yourself. I did not get the deep meaning of what he wanted to say or what he was saying. So I asked Professor Sharma, can you summarize it? He said, Dipak, just be yourself when you go to teach the class. If students ask you questions and you don't know the answer, which is very likely, don't pretend to give them some answer. Be honest, tell them you are new to this discipline, and in the next class, you will come back with the answers. After 4 or 5 classes, you can start anticipating what questions students ask. And the first semester may be difficult, but think of you as a learner as opposed to as a teacher when you are starting anything. So ye advice that be yourself is something very, very important. Don't try to be someone else. People will respect you for who you are. I have always, Dishan mentioned in the introduction, I am who I am. My accent hasn't changed. It is almost 40 years I have been to US. वही भारतीय हैं, वही देसी हैं, वैसी हिंदी बोलते हैं, क्योंकि at the end, we have to be true to ourselves, to our inner peace, और सबसे जरूरी चीज इन लाइफ दैट आई हैव इज टू हैव अ गुड स्लीप एट नाइट. आपके मन में अगर दुविधा और स्ट्रेस होगा, you won't be able to have a good sleep. To reduce stress, don't expect too much. Expectations are also a function of your abilities, and those abilities get better as you work harder. There is no substitute to hard work. Intelligence matters, intellect matters, intuition matters, but all those intelligence can be sharpened by your dedication, by your commitment, and with the support of your colleagues, your teachers. That's what I have learned over the years. And I tell you, you will see lots of teachers. You will get exposed to different teachers. Not everyone would be the same. But let me tell you, everyone has something to contribute. We always say that we have 5 fingers, they are not equal, but each finger has an important role to play. If all fingers were equal, we won't be able to perform our job as smoothly as we can do that with unequal fingers. But more important is not whether this professor is as good as the other. Is this professor able to communicate something that I am able to learn? And I tell you how I consider a classroom. Teaching is something I have never considered as a profession. Teaching is something I worship. Going to a classroom to me is like going to a temple. And every student in the classroom is the manifestation of a deity. You make us learn as much as we are able to share our knowledge and our expertise with you. Teachers don't teach. Teachers create an interest in you. The role of a teacher to me is to ignite the flame of intellectual curiosity in you. We have to make the subject matter interesting. And once the subject becomes of interest, students would themselves go and pursue or dig deeper in that subject. So the first thing you need to have is what I call passion. You have to be passionate about things that you do and passionate about learning. Second is there should be a purpose. हम ये क्यों कर रहे हैं? You are not doing this just from learning to move into earning. Earning to आएगी, but by purpose I mean thinking of a bigger picture. What we can do for our country, what we can do for our community, what we can do for our society, because those things are also important, and as responsible citizens, we have to have this feeling of giving back. And the third is performance. So pehla passion, dusra purpose, तीसरा performance, and then you perform and do your best. Nike company, they have a very simple brand message. Just do it. Life is not about getting the first place. You will get the first place, but for you to get the first place, first you have to do something. Just sitting on the table or sitting on the chair is not going to help you if you start criticizing the world around you and criticize the circumstances that come to you. Pandit Radhakrishnan once was asked a question when he was the President Radhakrishnan, do you think you becoming the president was luck or it was your efforts? How do you define or how do you distinguish the two? I tell you, he gave a very simple answer. And that answer is very insightful. He said, when you play cards, the deck of cards you get is your luck. What you make of those cards is your effort. Today, this morning, this oath taking ceremony, think of it. Mother Saraswati has given you this deck of cards, your classmates, the program you are. What you make of these cards, what you make of this situation is going to ignite that flame, और वो सारी दुनिया में वो रोशनी चमकेगी, और उसके चमकने के कारण आपकी मेहनत, आपकी सफलता होगी. So don't lose this opportunity. Don't let this opportunity pass by, and then you say one day, oh, I wish I could have done this more. My advice to all of you is accept what you have and make the best of it. And I thought I will share a story with you. I have said this story many times, but I want to say it once again because I want to listen to it. So this is after I completed my PhD. I got a job at the Kellogg School of Management in the marketing department. And Kellogg School was always the best school when it came to the field of marketing. Harvard may be known for the School of Leadership, Wharton the School of Finance, MIT the School of Technology and Entrepreneurship, Stanford the School of Startups and others, and Kellogg was always known as the School of Marketing. And I had a colleague called Professor Philip Kotler, who is considered to be the guru of marketing. And I remember working with him, and I had the fortune to write a book with him. So I come to Kellogg School. Now, getting a job is the first step, but then you also have to teach. As Dishan mentioned, that my PhD was more in applying mathematical models to business problems, but I never got a formal training in marketing. In fact, मुझे marketing कुछ नहीं आती थी जब मैं Kellogg में पढ़ाने आया. So my chairman came to me and said, Dipak, normally when we hire assistant professors, we give them the basic marketing management course to teach. And people who are going to do their management degree here, both the undergraduate, graduate would get into the marketing field. And marketing field, you are taught about the 4 P's: product, price, promotion, and place. You are taught about being customer centric and all those things. मुझे कुछ नहीं आता था. मुझे तो यही नहीं मालूम था word market segmentation क्या होता है. So I told my chairman that, sorry, sir, I won't be able to teach because I don't know any of these things. He says, we hired you as a professor, as an assistant professor of marketing. That is true, but I'm very sorry, I won't be able to deliver a world-class program. So finally, we came to a compromise. He said they teach a course called market research, which is basically applying statistical methods to marketing problems. So I said, I will try that because that was the only solution. I knew some statistics, so that was the only solution. And we have to teach 4 courses in a year, 2 in every semester. So I had 2 sections of market research. And these are second-year students, because for students who graduate with an MBA degree with a concentration in marketing, have to take market research as a compulsory course. So I had mostly second-year students in my class who had to take this course because it was a requirement. I had about less than 30 students in one section and 32 students in the other, though normally the class size is about 60, 65. These students took me because not that they knew about me, I was new, but they had no option but to take the course, and I was the only person teaching that course that term. So ये है January 5, 1987. I went to my class. I taught the first class. At Kellogg School, we used to teach twice a week. Either you teach Monday, Thursday, or you teach Tuesday, Friday. Wednesday, हमारी classes नहीं होती थी because Wednesday was a day of break for students to work on group projects. And recruiters, when they used to come to campus for recruiting, they would only come on Wednesdays so their students don't have to miss classes. So I taught my Monday class, then I taught my Thursday class, and our classes were 100 minutes long. So we used to teach from either in the morning or the afternoon. So my classes, one section was from 1 to 2:40, then 20 minutes break, then 3 to 4:40, and then 5 to 6. Every time you teach, you need to have an office hours so students can come and ask you any clarifying questions. So I taught my Monday sessions, I taught my Thursday sessions. I came back to my office. And when I came back to my office, I saw some students waiting outside my office. And they said, Professor Jain, we students from both sections met, and we are here to give you some feedback about your class. I thought, Abhi, to just I have taught 2 classes, and these students are already here with feedback. So I said, will you excuse me? I will go to the bathroom to wash my hands. In those days, we used to teach with blackboard and chalk. And I am a person from the Stone Age. Abhi bhi main blackboard chalk se hi padhata hu. So anyway, I came back from the washroom, came to my office. 3 students came inside. Pehla student, uska naam hai Fred Kindle, and he later on became the chairman of a company called ABB, Asian Brown Beverly. Uska wo, finally he retired as a CEO. He was in my class in 1986-87. Second student, I won't be able to tell you his name because I had to sign an agreement, because in the very first class he said something which didn't make any sense. So I asked him to write on the board, and I didn't know this was not the US protocol, because next day I was invited by my chairman, and he told me that he had a letter from the neurologist of the student saying that Professor Jain put my patient into depression because I exposed him before the class. So I had to sign an agreement that I won't reveal his name. And the third student name was John Nielsen. John Nielsen and his wife were close friends of Bill Gates and Melinda Gates. He was working for Microsoft in 1980-82. He took leave of absence to come and do an MBA. These were the 3 students who came to the room. And Fred Kindle started the conversation. He said, Professor Jain, we all students met, and we have come to this conclusion that you don't know the subject. In very simple words, he said, we are very disappointed because we don't think you are an expert and you don't know the subject. Now, what he's saying is true. I'm not denying that. I told him that, as I said in the class, this is the first time I'm teaching this course. I have made a commitment that I want to learn this subject because I'm doing research in this area, and somebody has to be in my first class. It happens that you are there, but I am trying to learn this subject. Now, I have a saying that outcome is the sight. When you see something, you see it, but the process to reach the outcome is the insight. So I asked this person, I said, what you are saying is true, but tell me, how did you figure out that I don't know the subject? I have only given 2 lectures and I have 18 more to go. One course was 20 lectures of 100 minutes each. So I said, how did you come to this conclusion in 2 lectures? So the other student, whose name I won't reveal, said, Professor Jain, what you said in the class was you read the first 2 chapters of the book. And we had done the readings before coming to the class. So we didn't learn anything new. You just repeated what was there in the book. And in fact, the examples you gave were also the examples in the book. And that tells us that your knowledge is only the knowledge about the boundaries of the book. That's why we say you are not an expert. Now, that is also true. I asked the chairman, the person who was the head of market research. He suggested a book. I read that book. And so I used that as the reference guide. So I told him that what you are saying is true, and I'm just following the book because that's a good structure. While I was telling this, the third student interrupted. This guy, John Nielsen, and he said, Professor Jain, let me make one thing clear to you. we have not come here just to complain. So I asked him, I said, then what's the purpose? What I heard so far, then what is the purpose of this meeting? He said something very emotional to me. He said, Professor Jain, we all students believe that there is a great teacher inside you. And this evening is our promise. We will make you the best teacher in marketing research. This is our promise to you today. Now, how did they do that? From next day when I used to come to my office, they had articles from Wall Street Journal, from Business Week, about what different companies are doing with respect to their marketing strategies. He said, Professor Jain, you start reading these stories and start weaving them in your lectures. Don't just write on the board y equal to a plus bx, y is the dependent variable and x is the independent variable. Say y is sales, x is price or advertising. Change your vocabulary and start. You are an expert how you put these things into a proper format. Now, let me tell you one thing. No challenge ahead of you is greater than the force behind you. If your students are there to help you, the teacher would never face any problem in life. I was blessed to have such students who cared not only about themselves, but also about the instructor. The reason I bring this story to you is you and teacher, we are in a partnership game. The word customer in marketing would disappear. Customers are also like partners. If they have something about the product, they should give honest feedback. I learned about this thing. Now, after the students left, a senior marketing professor were passing by. And he said, Dipak, I have taught for 20 years. I never had 10 students coming to see you. And this is your first week and you have so many students coming to see you. What was their view? I said that, they were just giving me some feedback on the course. They said, what was the major feedback? I said, they said that basically I read the first 2 chapters of the book and they did not learn anything new. He said, let me give you my advice. Prescribe a different book to the students and you start reading another book. The concepts would be the same, but the examples would be different. So long students see a different example, they would think you are an expert. My point to all of you is, kabhi bhi jab jarurat ho, never hesitate to ask. Never hesitate to express your ignorance to others. Oh, if you ask a question, you become fool for a moment. If you don't, you may remain fool forever. I know I took more time than I was supposed to. I only wish you my very best on this great journey ahead. Wonderful days are ahead of you. You are at a great institution under the great leadership with great teachers. Whatever the best is in Dipak Jain, I offer that to you. And as I said, no challenge ahead of you is greater than the force behind you. From today, you always have Dipak Jain behind you. Thank you all for including me in this wonderful oath ceremony. Thank you, Dishan. Thank you, Neeraj. Thank you, everyone. And you can always count on Dipak Jain. My blessings to all of you.